What is something that sounds 100% false, but is actually 100% true?
Cornflakes were originally created by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg in an attempt to discourage masturbation and suppress sexual desire. Consider the difference between a million and a billion. A million seconds is about 12 days, while a billion seconds is roughly 32 years. Imagine you traveled back to the year 1 AD. From the moment you arrive, you start receiving $10,000 every single hour. You wait around until modern times, meaning you have spent the last 2,025 years collecting $10,000 every hour. Even after all that time, you would still be significantly poorer than Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. To put it another way, if one step in a staircase represented $100,000 of wealth, most families would not even make it onto the second stair. The top 1% of wealthy people in the world would be 10 steps up. However, Elon Musk's wealth staircase would be 45 times taller than Mount Everest. Climbing to the actual summit of Everest only gets you about 2% of the way to his total wealth. It is equivalent to climbing to the edge of space and back, twice. The only member of the band ZZ Top that did not have a beard was their drummer. His name? Frank Beard. Ancient Egypt was around for so long that they actually had Egyptologists who studied what was, to them, already ancient Egypt. After studying ancient Egypt, the only real job prospect you have is to teach people about ancient Egypt. This is essentially the original pyramid scheme. To put that timescale into perspective, the Great Pyramids at Giza were already over 1,000 years old when King Tutankhamun ruled. Furthermore, King Tut had been dead for over 1,000 years by the time Cleopatra was born. There is actually more time between when the pyramids were built and Cleopatra's reign than there is between Cleopatra's reign and today. Egypt is incredibly old. There is a bank in Italy that accepts wheels of Parmesan cheese as collateral for loans. They actually deposit the cheese into bank vaults as it ages for 18 to 36 months. This has got to be the most Italian thing ever. It actually makes a lot of sense since it is produced there, has high demand, appreciates as it ages, and stores easily. It is not just a one-off singular transaction. It is economical to create a market for that, and the interest on the loan makes the bank money, especially when you consider that individual wheels are worth roughly 1,500 United States dollars. On that note, the United States used to buy massive amounts of cheese and store it to make up for a lack of demand for milk products. This eventually became known as government cheese in the 1980s. Vesna Vulovic, a 22-year-old Serbian flight attendant, holds the world record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute after plummeting 10,160 meters, which is approximately 33,333 feet. I was listening to Nestlings on audiobook recently, and this very fact was mentioned. Vulovic was the only survivor. She fell 6 miles while unconscious due to the change in pressure when the airliner split open. Her survival was largely attributed to the fact that she was unconscious and therefore was not tensed up when she eventually hit the ground. Speaking of which, I have heard that many car crash victims suffer more damaging injuries because they tense up just before the impact. Actually, a much bigger factor was that she was protected inside a section of the fuselage, which then hit angled terrain and trees. This slowed the section down rather than stopping it suddenly. Without that, the forces acting on a human body in a free-fall impact are never survivable, regardless of how tense the body is. In fact, nobody has ever survived hitting a hard surface at terminal velocity.
There is a shark in the North Atlantic, estimated to be old enough to have been alive for the English Civil War, the First Industrial Revolution, the American Revolution, the Napoleonic era, and the Meiji Restoration. This shark has lived through the abolition of slavery in America, the Great Depression, both world wars, the moon landing, the falling of the Berlin Wall, September 11th, and the War on Terror. He has been around for at least 3 centuries of music and is still trucking along today. For several million years after trees first appeared on Earth, nothing was able to process them when they died. Tree-eating fungi and bacteria did not evolve until much later. Earlier estimates suggest 30 million years later. As a result, trees would simply die and stay exactly as they were. Eventually, fungi and bacteria learned how to break down lignin, and trees finally began to disappear after their demise. As I understand it, this is exactly what made coal possible. Trees piled up and were buried without rotting away.
They were eventually compressed and heated by geological activity over time until they formed coal. This process is essentially impossible now, at least on Earth. The movie Splash helped bring the name Madison to women. Prior to that, it was considered a masculine name. After the movie was released in 1985, the name became popular for baby girls, rising to the second most popular girl's name in the United States by 2001. It was almost non-existent as a baby girl's name before the movie.
I just learned this from a Forgotten Weapons video. You know those small pistols people used in the 1800s? They were originally made by a man named Henry Derringer in Philadelphia. Some of his salespeople in San Francisco started making high-quality knockoffs with Derringer's name stamped on them. Henry filed a lawsuit for trademark infringement and won a hefty sum of money. To get around this, the salesperson went back to Philadelphia, found a different man whose actual last name was Derringer, and licensed his name for use on the pistols. Now you have Derringer pistols from Philadelphia and Derringer pistols from San Francisco, and both spellings are technically correct.
It is entirely possible that a samurai could have sent a fax to Abraham Lincoln, because there was a point in time when all three existed simultaneously. To be specific, the first printing telegraph, the ancestor of the fax machine, was invented in 1843. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. Meanwhile, the samurai caste was not officially abolished in Japan until the Meiji Restoration in 1867. This means there was a 22-year window where a samurai could have theoretically sent a fax to the President of the United States. Baby horses are born with extra bits of keratin on their hooves to protect both themselves and their mothers during birth. These fall off shortly after the soft new hooves harden upon exposure to air. They are commonly referred to as horse feathers. Also, horses are technically standing end point their whole lives because their hooves are just giant toes. The other toes they used to walk on still exist as tiny bones the size of a pencil on either side of their legs.
Male calico cats are extremely rare. Only about 1 in 5,000 calicos are male. The show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cleverly threw this fact in, but they made it seem too ridiculous to be true, because the character Charlie says it. Both calico and tortoiseshell-colored cats can only be male if one of two very rare phenomena occurs. The genes for red and black colors only occur on the X chromosome, so a male cat is usually either just black or just red. To be calico, the cat must either be XXY, which usually results in sterility, or the cat must be a chimera. This happens when two fetuses fuse very early in the pregnancy to create one kitten, and at least one of those fetuses is male. These chimera cats are not always sterile. In the 20 years I worked at a veterinary clinic, we only ever saw one male calico cat.